Hi, you guys. Good morning. Welcome to week 2. I hope week 1 was healthy and sane and safe for all of you. But we're going to get through this. All right, so let's just get right into it. So, this week's objectives include planning out your speech. So, continuing on with our assignment that we had started before the school closed. And then reading and discussing an issue facing our generation. So, we're continuing on with that. And then continuing also your remote learning writing assignment, whichever like form you took that in, and then archiving the human experience, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So the first thing is the Gen Z speech pre-write. So remember that pre-write we started before we went on this break, right? So you guys planned your speech out a little bit. Most students, I think, only had like a claim done and then still needed to work on all this. So that's what you're doing. So you're going to finish that pre-write. We want to plan out our speech because next week we're going to actually start writing it. And then we are reading and discussing an article called Class Dismissed and creating a soapbox. So this article is really interesting because it argues for an end to senior year. So like just get rid of senior year. It's a waste of time. So that's interesting. It's an interesting point. So what you're going to do is first you're going to read the article, okay? And then on Google Classroom, after you've read the article, you have this a soapbox, and I was really impressed with the TED Talk soapboxes you guys came up with, um, especially when you made sure to, I saw people really working well with the analysis verbs, understanding the occasion a lot more. It's not just like, oh, it's a TED Talk, it's this TED conference. No, it's like it's a bigger issue happening that makes the speaker want to write about it. And then as far as the box part, you guys, you want to make sure to use textual evidence to support your response and explain how your example affects the speaker's credibility. So if you say something like the ethos is they have a PhD, well, what does that make us, how does that affect their credibility? Why should we listen to them? So then you need to explain why having a PhD would make this person knowledgeable and credible to speak on this issue. When you talk about pathos, you always want to talk about the type of emotion that it's making the audience feel and how. So when they bring up a story of their like dying grandma, then you want to say this allows the reader to connect to the speaker because maybe that reader also had like a family member die or feel sad for the speaker because he's telling an emotional story, blah, blah, blah. And then for logical argument, you actually need to break down the logic a little bit. Like, why is this a logical argument? Okay. Um, and then when you are done with that, you're going to take a look at these discussion questions. Okay. These discussion questions, you can think of it as like if we were reading argument pieces in lit circles, these are the type of questions I would want you guys to ask each other. Okay. And they're text dependent. So we're getting more practice with our text dependent questions. But you're going to pick out one of these and then you're going to need to modify it because these are general. So you need to modify it so it makes sense for the article. Okay. And then if you go back into Google Classroom where it says, please post your question about class dismissed. So what you're going to do is for you guys, it says your answer here. What you're really doing is you're posting your question and then other students are going to reply to your question with an answer. Okay. So you're going to post your open-ended question. So you're going to take a look back at this and then reply to at least 2 other classmates' questions. Be sure to use textual evidence in your response. I went through and I tried to like look at your responses to the belt and they were really like analytical, but you were missing textual evidence. So you want to be using that textual evidence in all responses. And then finally, oh yeah, and then again, continue your journaling activity. So whatever that is for you, if that's been making a scrapbook or if that's just writing in your composition book for 5 minutes, that's fine. Okay, we just want to document. Speaking of documenting, so I'm really excited about this assignment. It is a StoryCorps interview. So StoryCorps is an organization that really wants to tell stories. Okay, so their mission is to preserve and share humanity stories. So what they do is they have people like record interviews with people in their lives, their neighbors, their teachers, their siblings, and they talk about like a topic, and they just talk about it. They just like interview each other, or one person interviews the other. And so, we're all home for hours on end with members of our family. So instead of just like staring at each other all day, make use of that time and really use it as an opportunity to ask a question you've never really had a chance to ask before, or would have been awkward to ask, or you just didn't have the time because you knew it would be a long story. Now is your chance to ask that. So what you're going to do first is you're going to determine who you would like to interview. So that could be somebody who's in your household right now living with you in this social distancing time, or it could be like someone, a friend, right? Obviously, like, we're social distancing, so don't invite people over if your like household is not about that. But you can like FaceTime, and you can ask them questions like, you know, through the phone. So it'll be interesting, but that's an option for you. And then the second thing you want to do is determine the questions you want to ask them. It's generally helpful to give your interviewees the questions beforehand so they have time to like think about it. And then your interview is only 5 minutes, so that's not very long. So you only really want to ask like 2 to 3 questions. And then under the topic StoryCorps interview in Flipgrid, this is where you're going to post your interview. All right, it's going to be a video right here. This is a sample video with me and my mama. Okay, and so you're just going to add one here. Um, and then you're going to respond with comments or questions to at least 2 other students' interviews. Some tips and tricks. Please do a sound test first. I had to record the whole interview twice with my mom because we were social distancing. So she was like 5 feet away from me, and the computer didn't pick up her sounds the first time. So just do like a sound check first and make sure everything's good, and then try it again. Again, give your interviewees the questions beforehand. Start the interview with just like introducing your guest, or have them introduce themselves. We don't know who this person is. And then here are just some possible topics. It doesn't have to be about coronavirus stuff. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. And then here's a link here to other great questions that you could ask. All right. So those are our assignments for this week. If you have any questions, please let me know. 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. are my office hours Monday through Friday, or you can email me at jriyad@rbusd.org. All right. And you guys, please respond to the Flipgrids, the how are you ones. I really liked seeing just like what people were up to, and like just your thoughts and feelings, and hearing and seeing you. It gave me a sense of normalcy, and I'm sure your classmates as well. So please respond to those. That's kind of just like an ongoing thing. If you like baked something, show us what you baked. If you finished a puzzle, show us the puzzle you finished. If you like whatever, cleaned your room and now it's all nice and clean and you want to show us, go for it. All right. I'll see you guys in a little bit.